We are here today to talk about Minwaashin Lodge and Cornerstone's partnership and how we work together to meet the needs of Indigenous women. My name is Terry Lynn George. I am the manager of 373 Princeton. I'm an Ojibwe woman, and it's an honor to be here to support in this conversation.
And I'm Sabrina Jones-Bennett, a Métis woman from Northern Ontario, from Sudbury, Ontario. And I'm looking forward to taking this walk with you today.
So, just a little bit about Cornerstone. Cornerstone has emergency accommodation and supportive housing. We have one shelter and 4 supportive housing locations. We try to ensure a safe and affordable place for women to call home. Our staff work holistically with our residents to meet their goals and aspirations. And hopefully we can lead them to their full potential and towards a meaningful life. Currently, again, we have one shelter, 4 locations. We're going to be talking about Princeton today. Princeton is located in the Westboro community. We have 42 units plus a respite room, 24 staffing, and we opened 3 years ago, so fairly new.
Yeah, and Minwaashin Lodge is a Indigenous Women Support Center with a focus on supporting women and children that are fleeing violence or have experienced violence. We have a counseling program, an education program, parenting program, and a VAW shelter that we run under our umbrella. And we partnership with Princeton even before its opening of its doors to create a good supportive environment.
So before we start today, I'd like to do a land acknowledgements. Land acknowledgements became popular after the Truth and Reconciliation Committee released the 94 calls to action. So today, we acknowledge that we are standing on the unceded traditional lands of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. So we can all agree that Indigenous homelessness is complex and something the numbers continue to rise. One of the documents that we really think is helpful in defining homelessness for Indigenous people is called the 12 Dimensions of Indigenous Homelessness. We've put a link on the bottom of the screen for you to kind of navigate that. But they define homelessness. Indigenous homelessness is not defined as lacking a structure of habitation. Rather, it is more fully described and understood through a composite lens of Indigenous worldviews. These include individuals, families, and communities isolated from their relationships to land, water, place, family, kin, each other, animals, culture, languages, and identities.
And we encourage all of you guys to follow the link that's on the presentation to give yourselves a more in-depth awareness of the challenges Indigenous peoples face.
So we'd like to start off to show you some of the stats, which are kind of alarming to me. Overall, Aboriginal people comprise less than 4% of Canadian population, but more than 10% of the homeless population. In 2018, 24% of people experiencing homelessness are Indigenous in Ottawa. So in order to honor that and our dedication to reconciliation, we dedicated 10% of our units to Indigenous women when we initially opened. Today, we support our population is 42% of our units are occupied by Indigenous women. So we started our conversations early before the opening of Princeton. The ED of Cornerstone, Sue Garvey, the ED Mary Dowse of Minwaashin Lodge, and Frances Daly, the director of Oshki, came together to discuss what was needed to support Indigenous women at Princeton. And we decided, we identified that connection, community, and culturally specific services needed to be the center of our partnership. This was the core, and this is how we would be successful in housing Indigenous people. Before Princeton even opened in 2018, we allocated some time towards intensive Indigenous awareness training for all staff. So It was mandatory that all staff attended a 2-day retreat, and George Cucci um, from the Nipissing community came, and he talked about his lived experiences. He talked about colonization, residential schools. We engaged in some of the traditional practices, ate some of the traditional foods. So we really got an understanding of how history has impacted the Indigenous community. We intended a variety of other community exercises, the blanket exercise. We went to TI for some workshops. Of course, Minwaashin has always been hands-on and um, always active in providing us educational opportunities and to consult with us on our questions of what we needed to do and what we needed to be aware of to be successful.
Right, which helped create the mutual goals between Minwaashin and Cornerstone. Basically, trying to provide safe environments for our women, provide education and mentoring, and a safe place to practice Indigenous traditions, and that makes them feel welcome, that they have a space that it reflects who they are and that path to a better life that they want. Uh, it was to develop reconciliation and understanding, which you'll see as we go forward how we promote that uh,
within our relationship. And what was really great at the start is we had the ability to listen to women and their life experiences and how complex their experiences were before coming to Princeton, so we could collaborate and support.
Right. So the conversations that were had were to identify all of the trauma and all of the history that our women have walked. Right. So at the table, we talked about mental health, substance use, isolation, disconnection from family and culture, family breakdown, fleeing partnership violence, having children in the care of CAS, and all the trauma that has come from that, being a 60s scoop survivor, residential school, intergenerational trauma, medical issues, medical trauma. All of those things are super important that we recognize so that we understand any behaviors that are presenting, because that just happens. It's part of life.
So, looking at client services focus, we needed culturally appropriate counseling services to have access to. We needed elder and traditional medicines to give to our community members if needed. Access to cultural programming and experiences, making a physical space friendly to Indigenous clients. And with the training we received beforehand, we needed to understand that sometimes, because sometimes we aren't the safe people, but if we share in supporting a resident, we sometimes that trust is transferred, or in an event that a woman comes to us and it's beyond our ability, that we can transition that woman to Minwaashin so she'll receive the care that she needs, and that we that and that she receives that in a timely manner. So it's really important that that cultural awareness foundation for all staff and the educational piece.
So some of the things that Princeton did to make it an Indigenous friendly environment was they offered space for smudging. They offered an Indigenous healing garden that grows sacred medicines, artwork around the building, which is beautiful and reflects the women that are living here. TL made a beautiful, huge dream catcher to help represent, as you walk in through the front door, that path to the good life, to the dreams, and where the women wanted to go, and areas to connect. Like there are private spaces where they can meet with multiple people without taking them into their apartments, and small boardrooms that they have access to, as well as a TV room and a large kitchen. There's a respite room, so then if individuals have family coming from out of the region for medical care or are struggling with something, that they could stay for a little while, but not necessarily be in their family member's space. The respite room has also been used for women fleeing violence, and there's no room in the shelter, as an alternative to put them somewhere that won't cause more trauma.
And it's really great because a lot of people can post up their artwork, and we can smudge together in sacred spaces. And it's really nice to hear Inuit women speaking their own languages, women using their drums. So it's a safe space. They feel comfortable.
Yeah. And then the whole process of how most of the Indigenous women end up at Princeton is through the housing worker team at Minwaashin. So we will meet with our clients, and if we will present Princeton as an option if they seem to be a fit, and then we walk with them for up to 2 years after they enter the building. So then we can provide supports and help collaborate with Cornerstone staff to resolve any issues that might be coming up and to help our clients be successful. Housing workers also from my team, because there's 5 of them, each one of us come once a week on Mondays between 2 and 3 p.m. So then clients can just do a drop-in if they haven't been able to get a hold of their housing worker or something to that effect. So then they know that we'll always be here. So then they have somebody to talk to.
And it's been great too collaborating, because if staff have questions in our approach or the way to support a client, we can consult with Minwaashin workers and the organization to kind of make sure that we are following an approach that isn't re-traumatizing. So it's so beneficial.
Some of the feedback we've gotten from the clients and the housing first workers are just that, the staff are respectful of our clients' culture and willing to go the extra mile and adapt their interventions accordingly, right? Some clients are just super happy because this is the first time they've had a home of their own that is safe and has boundaries. The fact that it's an all-female environment also gives many of the women another level of safety, because they don't have to worry about walking out the door and not knowing who's going to be there. So there's a lot of extra protections that have been developed in how Princeton was organized.
And I think what's great about having a bigger population of Indigenous people is there's kind of like a community within a community. So the women can rely on each other for supports, can talk to each other in their native languages, and just be together and feel that connection within the building. So it creates a sense of belonging. So it's been great.
Right. And then one of the other services that Minwaashin's been providing on site is our traditional support worker, the lovely Barb in the picture, as you can see. So she comes twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. till 12. And she runs a traditional program that usually ends up involving craft making or cooking or traditional elders coming and sharing stories. But this program is also available to the non-Indigenous clients to help develop that understanding of culture and moving towards reconciliation. And in the end, the clients also develop a sense of accomplishment and pride because they finish things. They have a healthy place to share their information or ask questions, educate themselves. All of those things are super important for a positive relationship to continue to develop and bloom.
Yeah, and the women, all different capacities, go to the group, so it's really great that they all can participate and do something at their level. So that's been really, really great to have. And again, if there's an interest within the group, Barb is able to go back to Minwaashin and consult the experts, and they can come in and provide those talking circles or that trauma care or the drumming circle, or even dancing. I think it's just really great that she listens to what the women's needs are.
And it flows into some of the extra supports we also provide, because every 2 weeks we have a grocery delivery for those who are on the list. Our Indigenous clients, it provides fresh fruit, vegetables, meats, eggs, milk, and such. And whatever our clients that are on our delivery list don't utilize, they also share it with the other clients on site. So it helps the whole community versus just one person. And then there's also the addiction and harm reduction services, which is the store and ban and addictions counseling that we provide, and get referrals from Princeton a lot for one-on-one supports as well.
So, and again, we always need their help. If a woman is in crisis, because a lot of times women come and they're just experiencing a lot of complex trauma, we can bring somebody in to support those women. They know they're women. So, if they need counseling support, processing loss, grieving, sometimes self-harm behaviors, again, like the substance use some women are experiencing. So all these supports, I can reach out and explain the situation, and they're really quick to respond and really quick to refer women to the services that they need. So we can kind of minimize the trauma for them.
Yeah. And one of the women that have been through Princeton and have now since moved out is a young woman by the name of Ryland, who gave us permission to share her story today. She came to Princeton when they first opened. She hadn't even turned 18 when I did the referral. She was graduating out of CAS care. She had been moved to Ottawa from a northern community and had really limited supports, no family at all in the city. She was the youngest client and had to delay her move-in until her 18th birthday to be able to legally sign the lease. But once she got here, she completed her high school. She started and completed a year of college, got her first job. And during this time, she was able to pay for her own autism testing because she had never been properly assessed while she was growing up, which definitely impacted her education goals and potentials, right? She has now applied for university and has been accepted. She was a manager at a pizzeria and now is just rocking it on her own, living independently.
So inspiring. And we were happy to support Rylan get books for schooling through our through some funds that we had set aside. And also our relationship with Rylan, it was very limited at first, but with the support of the housing workers, we were able to integrate and have a really great relationship where she felt comfortable coming to us and addressing things with the Cornerstone staff. So,
and this is how we're moving towards reconciliation, though, right?
Absolutely.
Developing that understanding, helping staff to be educated, to be the safe people, right? Bringing a reconnection to culture, community, tradition, family, right?
Support that healing.
Right. That's always what our intention is, and continued learning and education, because we're never going to know everything.
No, and things are changing, and we want to be able to address the women's needs, and those are changing all the time.
Yeah.
So I think it's best to say that we are walking together in this, and Cornerstone could not support our Indigenous community without Minwaashin and their wonderful workers. And they've just been so impactful and present. And we're moving forward to, having them integrated into our shelters and to our other housing, because there is such a need for our Indigenous community to feel connected to their culture and promote that reconciliation.
And respected.
Within our houses. And it's so nice, because I remember sitting down and, community will happen organically, but with the education of our residents, I've seen them embrace the culture. There's no, that stigma and discrimination has been really halted within the community. And, they're even teaching each other how to do certain things, like the Inuit and the Indigenous women are teaching the other women how to engage in that culture, and they seem so proud to do that. And that's what we want. We want that safe community and that sense of belonging. And it's happening, and it's taken a long time, but here we are. So I think we couldn't do it without each other, and we couldn't support that woman.
Right, and getting the women's feedback and them feeling empowered that they have a direction in how the facilities run is important. So we acknowledge that together, to ensure the Indigenous women have access to traditional culture, teachings, and support. Together, we recognize that connection to culture and community is essential for reconciliation. We are so grateful to the wonderful staff, management who continue to work tirelessly to support some of the most vulnerable women in Ottawa. Minwaashin is looking forward to many more years of collaboration with Princeton. Together, we will provide the holistic, compassionate supports essential to residents' healing and growth.
And we look forward to walking with the women together.
Yeah. So we look forward to answering your questions during the Q&A part of this presentation. And thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.